Welcome to Chat with Leaders. Our mission is to give resilient servant leaders a platform for sharing the inspiring things they're doing to lead themselves, their teams, and the communities they serve wisely. I'm today's host, Jeff Bond at Berry in Atlanta, Georgia, where we develop custom apps and cloud solutions. Today, I'm incredibly proud to welcome my friend Greg St. Jacques, a global people leader in talent solutions, currently serving as the Vice President of Talent at Pyramid Systems in Fairfax, Virginia, which is an award-winning technology leader driving digital transformation across federal agencies. Welcome, Greg.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. I've been looking forward to this all week since we talked about it. You and I go back to high school playing baseball and basketball together, and I've been incredibly proud to watch your career flourish and your leadership. And I know with your competitive drive and your integrity, it's no surprise that you've been able to do great things.
I appreciate that, Jeff. We likewise. We followed each other for a long time and have a close friendship.
Yep. Well, as you know, Greg, this show is about 50 minutes or so. We like to get into some key points of our shared passion of leadership and give you a platform to share some of your principles. So let me just jump right in with my first question. You and I had talked recently about the value of authenticity. What have you learned about that throughout your leadership career?
Wow, it's probably the most important leg of the trust stool, if you will. I'm a big TED Talk follower and listen to them quite a bit. And, you know, really when I think about trust, which is really the most incredibly important element when you're a leader, is you have empathy, you have to speak with logic, communicate well, but you have to be authentic. If individuals don't feel as if you're being authentic, then they really don't trust that you are empathetic and that the things that you are stating are true and have great logic to improve kind of their work outputs. So I've just found, to be myself, to ensure that individuals understand kind of who I am and what I stand for is the most important element of being a leader.
I love that. Yeah. And I'm a big TED Talks follower too. And one of my favorite leadership speakers is Craig Rochelle. He has a leadership podcast as well. And he always says it's better when leaders are real than when they're always right. And people would rather follow those types of leaders. He says something to that effect. And I always, that always resonates with me. So great point. Greg, being in the talent acquisition space, I've shared some experience in that arena as well. And the word recruiter often comes with a negative connotation. And, in your experience, what do good talentpreneurs, as you call your team members, do differently that dispels any of those preconceived notions for somebody that's maybe considering a working relationship with them?
That's a great question. I think age old with recruiting is it's always seen as sales, and no negative connotation to sales. Sales plays a purpose in helping, businesses achieve their corporate goals, right? And, when we think about sales in regards to recruitment, we are selling an opportunity and a career for individuals that they may not have known about. So I think the negative connotation to recruiters could be that they're reaching out with only one goal in mind, and that's to fill a role. Whereas, as I've kind of pitched it to teams that I've led is, be a talentpreneur. So, be conscious of all the elements and the things that you need to be aware of to build a really solid relationship. So almost be an entrepreneur of a relationship as your business. And so be prepared to understand what questions individuals may have about our company, but also who you are as a person and why you're in recruiting and why you're recruiting for this particular company. That sets the foundation of trust. So if you communicate the logic component incredibly clearly, then again, you starting off on the right foot with individuals. But I think just over time, individuals have seen just that, it's a volume game with recruiters. So we're constantly calling, and do we truly want to get to know an individual, or do we just want to fill a role? And the more you can pull back and sell to your business partners, your internal customers that, I need to be an entrepreneur. I need to not feel as if I'm driving volume. I'm building relationships and engaging with individuals to understand who we are as a company. That's really where, the rubber meets the road. And when you can actually get individuals to not think, hey, there's just another recruiter calling me about a role, to this is somebody that values their profession as a recruiter, and sees the value in building a really solid relationship and getting to understand who I am and what I'm looking for, that's when you flip the script to being kind of that volume-based recruiter making calls that everyone says, oh, gosh, I hope I don't get a call from that recruiter. To, I hope I get a call from that individual. They care about me and what I want to do in my career, and let's see what that company that they're with right now can actually offer that could achieve that.
I love that. And I love how you make the point of recruiting being a sales profession. I've often seen the distinction being kind of separate between recruiting and sales. And just like in sales, your customers have the option whether or not to buy from you, just as much as a candidate in the field has an opportunity whether or not to accept a position or accept your phone call. And so just being likable and focusing on the relationship is really sage advice, my friend. You also talked about why empowering your team members is incredibly important to them, as well as fulfilling your responsibilities as a leader. Can you break that down for me a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, I could talk about COVID, but I won't go there. But empowerment is incredibly important for individuals in this current environment. If they feel empowered, then they feel trusted to perform their role no matter where they're at, and they feel as if they've got the option to really establish a process that's going to work for them in this environment that we're in. But I really take empowerment back to kind of when you mentioned talentpreneur. To me, they're tied together. If an individual feels empowered to develop a process that's inside a box, like a really big box of and compliance and ensuring that we're being legal, but as an individual, if you understand who you are and you're being authentic, you can understand how you need to sell who you are and sell the company that you're recruiting for. There's not a set process. There's no perfect way to engage with an individual and communicate to them why the company has an opportunity that's going to fulfill all of their values, fulfill their career aspirations, support their family, and really take them to the next level. You have to have that empowered feeling that you can really stretch boundaries in terms of communication, process, steps within the recruitment process that may be necessary, that may be outside of norm. Maybe it's a sell call before an interview. So an individual can understand who the company is and what our values are, what our culture is about before you actually get into the meat of an actual interview and assessment. Sometimes those steps are necessary, and that's what a talentpreneur can do. And you have to be able to feel entrepreneurial that you can establish a process for one individual to fill a role, but that individual needs to feel as if they're incredibly important and not just filling a role within a company. And so that, again, if you can build a process around that one person, then they feel really important. So again, the entrepreneurial aspect of it is truly taking a process, expanding it, and making it to feel like it's just simply for that one individual. And then it's going to ensure that it gets all the information they need to make the right decision.
Yeah, I love that. In summary, you're saying essentially just have the person's best interests in mind, and really everything you're saying about talentpreneurs and authenticity that comes into full circle when you're simply being yourself and serving your candidates and your business clients and really the objectives of everybody, because truly you're just a facilitator at the end of the day. It's not your decision. They're all in the driver's seat of deciding whether or not to employ somebody or to go work for a specific type of company. And so you're there to really work side by side with your candidates, your business clients, to meet their individual objectives. And so I love that point of keeping everyone's best interests in mind and working within a larger box versus, feeling so constrained to do something for a number, for instance, or a metric. And so I think that really does empower people to do it in an authentic way. So really well said, Greg. You have also, and I love this because I remember this going back to our sports days, as kind of a self-proclaimed overachiever, of someone who maybe sets unrealistic goals for yourself beyond the scope of reality, which also makes you such a great competitor and great leader. What have you learned to be some of the downfalls of this trait, as well as the areas of opportunity to coach your team members on how to still set realistic goals and be a top performer?
I'm going to take it back even to the beginning. Yeah, it's the element of individuals truly feeling that you are empathetic. Empathy to me is just individuals feeling as if you are in it for them. You are looking to build their careers, understand what they value, so the individuals on your team, and how they can progress. When you set really unrealistic expectations, and that is what you are focused on, you can tend to lose that personal element of relationship and understanding what individuals on your team value, because you may be just so focused on the bottom line or the top line, whichever it may be. And so what I've found in terms of downfalls is, again, you lose that, you lose the trust. They don't feel as if you're empathetic. And when those two legs of the trust stool start to wobble, as again, going back to that TED Talk, it's incredibly important to know that. So when they don't feel you're empathetic, your logic and everything you're communicating is just simply about bottom line and unrealistic expectations, then again, your authenticity to them around who I am, and if I'm saying I value your career progression, they may not believe that, and they may not trust that. So if you lose that trust from your teams by setting these unrealistic expectations, which I've always had for myself, my entire career, my entire life, I've had to step back and say, before I even set goals, before I even start leading a new team, I need to sit back and be conscious of what my personality is, what my style is, and how individuals may consume that. And really ensure that I'm building expectations around their growth versus our team deliverables. If you can establish goals around an individual and those tie to those expectations of what the team will generate in terms of output, you're establishing trust that you care, which you should. You're being authentic because you do want to see them grow in their careers. But at the end of the day, you're actually still creating value and setting the right expectations for what the team's output is going to be. So you just can't lose that personal element of trust with your teams, which you can if you set those unrealistic expectations and manage to them, because that's tended where you fall into the micromanagement scale.
Yeah, and so provide value first, and the success will follow, and be realistic, and still, always is keep the best interests of other people in mind. So really all coming into full circle there. Really good points. Greg, I know you said you wanted to stay away from COVID, but I'm going to go there anyways. It's an unprecedented time. This show was birthed amidst the pandemic when it all started, about how leaders in everyday life are forging ahead faithfully to lead their teams and communities and themselves wisely. It's a complicated time that we're in. What advice would you have for leaders if they were to focus on one thing, one perspective amidst this challenge to forge ahead faithfully?
And this is just the way that life should be, period, is again, we all need to care about one another. Individuals are going to go through this time with different feelings, to the point of even schooling, virtual schooling, homeschooling, sending your kid into school. We all just need to be empathetic to the different situations that individuals are facing because of this pandemic. And in work, it's no different. Individuals may not feel comfortable coming into the office, even if there's going to be social distancing. You have to respect that. I've led teams, large teams that are just geographically dispersed around the U.S., and I've seen the power that teleworking and the work-life balance can provide to an organization and the outputs of teams. So I'll continue to be a firm believer that location is irrelevant. How individuals feel and the ability that they have to structure their lives. And again, so structuring their work around their lives, not the opposite, structuring their life around their work is not the way that we should be building the right, the relationships, and not the way that we should be treating employees. Again, it's really important to worry about safety, really important to worry about respecting individuals' decisions and how they're navigating this current environment. and ensuring that they feel that they are empowered to do the things that are going to be right by their family first, and then worry about the work.
That's so well said and powerful, Greg. Thank you so much for sharing that. We're going to wrap up here. If people wanted to learn more about you, get connected and network, what would be the best way?
Absolutely an open network. I don't think I've clicked the button on LinkedIn, but please reach out at any time. I'm happy to have conversations about recruiting, industry, whatever it may be. I'm an open networker.
Awesome. Well, we'll be posting the show notes as well as this episode on our website, chatwithleaders.com. We'll start by getting the video episode up on YouTube, and then it'll hit all the major podcast platforms like Apple or wherever you get your podcasts. So we'd be grateful if you would take the time to review and to share that with your friends. Great stuff in this podcast episode with Greg, and I'm really honored to be able to share that with others and by your gift of time, Greg. So thank you for being on the show today.
My pleasure, Jeff. Thanks for having me.